I also wanted to ask you about again something more personal. So in the last couple months, you went through a breakup that, I mean, I believe you were together with your partner then for about 5 years, and that's interesting to me because at this stage in our lives, right? So I just turned 26, you're 28. For some reason, the number 30 holds a lot of gravity. 30 means, hey, you're supposed to have it figured out by 30. If you're not married or if you don't have kids by that age, you should be on the track to having all of those things figured out. So I'm very curious to know for you if just kind of how you're doing since the breakup and kind of when you guys did break up, and because you were living together, you moved out, you and your rabbit Ralph, shout out to Ralph, everyone's favorite rabbit in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Just kind of what you went through in the ensuing days once you kind of had to start a different life for yourself.
Well, I think the best place to start this was it was before the breakup happened. And I think we really need to trust. It's so hard. We need to trust our guts. I think that I had known for quite a while that the life, or rather the trajectory of my life from where I was standing, wasn't right. But everything about it was perfect. So why would I mess that up? And I kept convincing myself it's me. Like, you're out of your mind to give up your life that has nothing but perfect promise. You are loved. You have a boat together. You have this beautiful home together. You've been together for so long. You've been on so many adventures. There's so much history. You have your life planned out. And there was this voice in me that I kept shutting down that was saying, it's not right. And I had so many arguments with this voice, like, are you out of your mind? Look at my life. In the next year, I'll be engaged. And in the next year after that, I'll be married. And then we'll get a house and I'll have this beautiful, perfect life. But there's no such thing as perfect. And, I think compatibility has a lot to do with things. And just because on paper, everything looks perfect doesn't mean that it is. And one day it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I had all of these thoughts. I can't afford a place in Portsmouth on my own. I'm just a school teacher and a yoga teacher. This city is expensive. I can't be single at 28. I'm supposed to be, I'm going to get married. I have a whole life. I can't be single at 28 in this city that I can't afford to live in, but I don't want to move. And I felt like I had pressed the self-destruct button on my life. But one thing we know to be true is that even when a forest burns to the ground, it fertilizes the earth for new life. And that's what it was. And I really believe in alignment. And somehow within a week of making the biggest, I think, most terrifying, most challenging decision of my life, I found an apartment that I could live in by myself and bring Ralph. I found that I could not only do this by myself, but do it very well. I found that I was going to be just fine. And more and more and more fell into place after that. I picked up some more yoga classes. My friends, man, you've never known the people that love you until you go through a crisis. They come through so hard. And I kept waiting. And I felt like everyone around me kept waiting. Like, all right, she's going to lose it. She's going to have like a mental breakdown and then we'll all see. It never happened. I think that sometimes you have to really, really trust that scary gut feeling that says you have to take the leap. You have no idea what's on the other side. You have to take the leap. And even though it was hard and it was scary, I'll say I've never been more proud of myself. I look at my apartment. I look at everything that I've accomplished in the past few months, and it makes me love myself so much more than I did staying in a place where I just wasn't happy.
I am so happy for you now that you have found happiness in all of this after pressing the self-destruct button on your life. Again, so many more questions. Going back to where you first started about kind of the doubts in your mind that had been percolating for a while. How long did you exist in this relationship with those doubts?
I think they would come and go. I think that in every relationship, certain scenarios will go down and you'll ask yourself, is this what I want? And more often than not, unless you break up, you decide, yes, it is. This is a blip. But I think that after a while, you start to realize that the person that you see the potential for someone becoming is not the person that is in front of you. And I think that everyone does that. Everyone projects an image of people onto their friends, again, their family, their partners, of who they're supposed to be. And sometimes neglect to see and love and appreciate them for who they are. And I think once that I came to that realization, it just didn't seem fair to either one of us to stay in that place.
So obviously your life has changed dramatically in just a short while here. I'm kind of curious now, what does now that you don't have, because I'm kind of the inverse of you right now. I love alone time. I love being alone. I thrive being alone. And so I was not in a relationship for past like 6-7 years or something, and I loved it. But I'm now in a relationship with someone that I care a lot about. But I am struggling with the fact that it's not all about me anymore. I now have to care for someone, and I now have to make sacrifices for someone and finally make decisions that concern someone else and someone else's well-being. And I have to make compromises. Like, I'm very routine oriented, and I have a lot of regiments and things that I just cannot now do anymore all of the time, because I'm now sharing whether it's a home or sharing a lot of my day with someone else. Do you have any advice for me in terms of how to navigate that?
I think it's good what you have. I think that the biggest mistake that people can make is becoming a we. And it's not to say that being a couple and doing things together and having shared routines is a bad thing. But I think that choosing to make time for another person is the real act of love, not the obligation. I think that choosing to adjust your schedule to incorporate another person is the act of love, not giving yourself until there's nothing left, not sacrificing your joy for someone else's. I think that those things can coexist. I think that You can have your joy and your partner can have their joy simultaneously. It doesn't have to be, I give up me so you can have me. It's you enhance my life by being a part of it. And that was the piece that I couldn't understand myself. Yeah.
So now that you have much more free time, just kind of what does your day look like? How are you what are you doing now that you weren't doing before?
Well, this is where having a therapist is the greatest thing in the whole wide world, because oftentimes we can think that we're taking care of ourselves when we are not. So originally I moved in here. I was like, okay, I don't have to take care of anybody else. I just have to take care of me. And I never had to take care of anyone else, but I am a chronic nurturer. It sounds like a really nice thing, but it's a lot. I still do it anytime a friend is nearby. I'm like, I'm making a meal. Would you like to come and join me for my meal? Can I get you something? I'll refill your drink for you. I cater, a little too much. So falling into that pattern and having someone accept it meant that when I was on my own, I really didn't know what to do, because I'd never catered to me. So I would just make chicken and some roasted veggies every night. And I didn't really have any snacks in the house. And everything I did was just basic and boring, and however I could make it as easy as possible, because why put effort into just me?
Right.
And it was in a conversation with my therapist that she said, how are you taking care of yourself? I said, oh, hanging out with my friends. I'm going to yoga classes. I'm working out. Everything's great. She goes, how are you taking care of yourself when you're at home? I couldn't answer that. And I realized that the love that I had put into any other person, I hadn't been putting into myself. So the past month or so, I've been making myself wonderful dinners for me. I have so many leftovers. I still don't know how to cook for one, but I make great meals for me because I love to cook and I love to eat. I keep a clean house because I like it, not because I feel obligated to. I have creature comforts. I sleep with a rain machine, which is so weird, and I've never done that in my life.
I do too.
I really
no
like
worries,
it.
yeah.
So I'm learning all of the things, to connect back to you and your independence, that I want to become non-negotiables when the time comes that I'm ready to be in another partnership, because I do value my alone time now, and I do value the things I do for myself. And I'm learning how not to compromise myself anymore to fit into someone else's mold.